Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this presentation. My name is Sam Tulimat, and I am a PM lead on the Windows Cloud Endpoint team. I'm excited to talk to you today about Windows 365 Frontline. Let's get started. Let's first go through the agenda quickly. I'm going to talk to you about Windows 365 Frontline, give you a quick overview so that you remember what we focus on with a product. From there, I'm going to share with you the new features that we're adding to Windows 365 Frontline today. And I'm going to go through several demos, like a demo on the provisioning policy, as well as our reporting. And finally, I'm going to wrap up by talking to you how to learn more about Windows 365 Frontline. So before we talk about Windows 365 Frontline, a quick reminder that Windows 365 is your powerful, simple, and secure full Windows experience in the cloud. We make sure that you're able to access Windows 365 and Cloud PC on any device. We focus on security, and we ensure that you can manage it via Microsoft Intune with ease. Now, Windows 365 Frontline is a version of Windows 365, and I'll talk to you a little bit about where did Windows 365 Frontline. When we introduced Windows 365 Frontline, we were thinking about how do we meet your full Cloud PC needs, because many users have different requirements. And so, first of all, we introduced Windows 365 and focused on a full-time user, meaning an information worker that many people are familiar with, someone who works 9 to 5 and maybe sometimes logs in the evening to do some email. And so with that, we introduced Windows 365 Enterprise, and we specifically made it so that you can buy one license and assign it to one user, which will have a Cloud PC available for their use anytime. As we talk more to customers, we learned that a lot of customers have many types of different users in their organization. Some users may actually be on the machine for periods of times that are not consistent every day. Maybe they're a shift worker that works in a rotational schedule. Maybe they're a part-time worker that works 3 days out of the week. And for those types of workers, oftentimes having a Cloud PC for them available all the time and licenses to them is not exactly needed for the organization and does not meet their cost need. And so with these types of users in mind, we introduced Windows 365 Frontline in dedicated mode. Windows 365 Frontline in dedicated mode is essentially what we released the product with initially. And I'll talk a little bit about what it is exactly in a bit. But as we also advanced in the adoption of our customers, we started hearing about another use case that many of our customers have in their devices and their users need within an organization, which is a group of users that are accessing a device on an intermittent basis, meaning they're logging in for very short period of times. They're on the machine for maybe 15 minutes or an hour, and then they're off the machine at other times. An example of that is a medical assistant at a hospital logging in vitals, or a retail store worker in the back office checking an inventory. For a lot of these users, they're actually only using the device when they need to complete a specific task. And so that was our next target, where we started building Windows 365 Frontline in shared mode. And Windows 365 Frontline in shared mode will be the focus of this presentation. And it's the new set of users that we are targeting with Windows 365 Frontline. Before I go further and talk to you more about Windows 365 Frontline in shared mode, I want to go over the goals of Windows 365 Frontline in general. We designed Windows 365 Frontline not just for frontline workers. We designed it for any user that may need a device for a limited amount of time, which are often in the physical device world shared device users, and in VDI commonly users who use potentially pooled desktops for a small period of times. Windows 365 Frontline is focused on enabling you to expand access to more users by making it more cost effective for you to actually allow them access. And also, we are focused on keeping that management story and that simplicity that I talked about initially consistent. And so that you can actually still manage all of these devices in Intune, as well as all of the other devices that you have. Lastly, one thing I want to call out is, in addition to thinking about how do we optimize Windows 365 so that you can use it in various scenarios that allow you to expand access. We're also thinking about how do we optimize the management of these types of devices and the end user experience so that people can be productive when they're on the go accessing devices for a limited period of times. So with all that in mind, I now want to talk to you a little bit about dedicated mode and shared mode in more details. So now let's talk a little bit more in details about when to use dedicated mode and when to use shared mode and what are the differences between them. With dedicated mode, we're targeting scenarios and employees who are going to be needing regular and personalized experience and consistent access to their Cloud PC. When you set up Windows 365 Frontline in dedicated mode, you will get, for each license, 3 Cloud PCs, and so that enables you to give access to more users. Now, even though you get 3 Cloud PCs, each license gives you only 1 active user at a time. I'll give you an example in a bit to share more how that works, but the key thing to remember is when Frontline dedicated mode Cloud PCs are in use, we turn them on and we enable them for the user. And when they're not in use, we shut them down. So they're only available for access during the work hours of the users. And those are not set work hours. They're basically specifically based on when the user is using the machine and when they're not using it. Now that's for dedicated mode. For shared mode, we've designed the Cloud PC so that it is designed for the task rather than the user. And our target is employees who need brief access to complete a specific task. So what happens in shared mode is each Cloud PC license becomes 1 Cloud PC, and you're able to set it up so that it can be available for specialized use. And so, for example, you can set up a Cloud PC for training or a Cloud PC for retail access. And when each Frontline license becomes a Cloud PC that can be shared across a group of users, that allows you to expand access specifically for scenarios where potentially you have people on the machines for a very brief period of time. And so you can, with small amount of license, give a lot of users access. Now, one key difference to highlight about shared mode is that the experience is standardized. It's not personalized to the user. And the machine is not specific to any user like dedicated mode. When the user logs in, they have their user profile getting created. And then when they log out, we delete their user profile after sign off. I'll talk a little bit more about some of the cool things that we've built into shared mode to optimize the Cloud PC experience for this brief use. But the last thing I want to highlight is across both dedicated mode and shared mode, you can manage all of this in Microsoft Intune using our provisioning policy and Intune settings with ease. And that's a really key design principle that we've had across these two experiences. We want you to be able to ensure that any user in any scenario can access Cloud PC, and we want you to be able to manage that without much additional effort. So now let me talk a little bit more in details about the experience in shared mode specifically. Many customers already are familiar with Windows 365 Frontline in dedicated mode. If you've purchased Frontline in the last 2 years, you probably have set up what we now call dedicated mode. And so if you haven't yet deployed shared mode, which is in public preview today, this is a good overview of how shared mode works. First of all, one key thing to highlight is that you can access a shared mode Cloud PC from any physical endpoint. We don't really care if you're on an iOS device or Android device or a Windows device. So long as you're using the Windows app access, you can access a shared mode device. The user is going to be able to roam across these platforms with the Windows app. Now, the second thing I highlighted as well is that the user profile typically gets removed on sign out and created on sign in. The third thing to highlight is that we actually learned from a lot of customers that for many of these users, the speed of sign in is really critical for them to be able to be productive. If you're, for example, a customer service agent helping customers at a car rental agency, you may be talking to many different customers, and you may have 5 or 6 customers waiting for you at the same time while you're going through and accessing a device to help them. And so in these scenarios, we've heard from customers consistently that the speed of sign in and being able to connect to a session is really important. So we invested significantly in ensuring that you can log into a Windows 365 Frontline shared mode device really quickly. The next thing to highlight is that even though we don't keep any user data in a session because we remove user data on sign off, we also ensure that there's a way for a user to be able to save data if they need to. And for that, we support Microsoft OneDrive so that if the user is on the go but still need to save some corporate data, they can save it there. Last thing here to highlight from a user experience perspective is that we actually also ensure that when Edge is signed in, it roams the web experience data for Microsoft Edge, which is really helpful for many types of scenarios. And if the user forgets to sign out, we have an idle timeout period after which we automatically sign them out. And so this is all part of our user experience and the different pieces that we highlight that we've optimized for users in shared mode. Now, before I move on to the next stage, I'm going to walk you through quickly the steps that the user goes through so that you have a better idea of it, and this will become much more clear in the demo. First of all, the user can launch the Windows app from any endpoint, as I highlighted before. Next, as you can see here, we've got a set of machines that are available for the user. So for example, let's say you have a training lab that you're setting up. You bought 30 licenses. You can set up 30 shared machines, and you gave access to 5,000 users that can access anytime, one person at a time. When one of those users is trying to access their training lab machine, we're going to give them one of these available devices, and they're going to be randomly assigned into it. And so as soon as they get a Cloud PC, we are able to sign them in, and when they finish their work, they sign out, and or if they've forgotten to sign out, the idle policy will set in and will automatically sign out. That's something that you can set up, but we have some defaults around that. The last thing here to highlight is that when they've signed out, we also remove their profile data and we prepare the Cloud PC for the next user so that it's always ready. So now you have a collection of devices that's always ready for any of those users to get productive on, and it is optimized for the task they're trying to complete. Okay, so now that we've talked about the end user experience, let me give you an overview of some of the key experiences that we've built for the admins, which I will show you more about in the demo that we're about to share. First of all, one of the key things that a lot of our customers have shared is that it's very important for the apps to be on the device prior to the user login. And that is because when you have machines, a collection of machines that are available for a specific task, you need to ensure that when the user is quickly signed into any of them, they're going to find the apps that are key for them to be productive. So one of the things that we have built specifically to enable that scenario is what we call device preparation policy, which is a type of Intune policy that's typically available for Windows Autopilot devices. We did a special integration with device preparation policy where you can, from our provisioning policy, be able to specify a specific device preparation policy, which is really primarily there for you to ensure that the device can be prepared with the required apps prior to user login. So that's one of the key experiences that we built. The second cornerstone of how to think about managing, administering shared mode Cloud PC devices is that you should enable primarily device targeted policies, just like you do for physical shared devices. So you can apply them in Intune, and you can also target the apps to that same device group. From our side, we automatically do the profile deletion, so there's nothing that you need to do on that. And then another key thing to highlight here from an admin perspective is that all shared mode devices and users are automatically logged in as standard users. The last thing I want to talk about here is the update process as well as the monitoring process. One key thing about Windows 365 Frontline, it is built on a concurrency model. And that concurrency model is a key feature that enables you to provide access to more users in your organization in a cost-effective way. At the same time, many of our customers want to be able to monitor. Do they have the right amount of devices? Are they taking the right actions to ensure that any user that is in their organization can automatically access and have a device ready for them? And that's where we built concurrency reporting that's available for you, as well as alerting that allows you to make sure that if you have allocated a certain number of licenses, that you've allocated the right number of licenses. From a update perspective, a lot of our customers ask, how should I think about my update policy? And one key thing that we've done in Windows 365 in general is to align the management experience to be similar to how you manage a physical device. And so shared mode devices are no different than that. You can manage them via Windows updates, but in many cases, what we've also heard from customers is that for specific scenarios, they may need to be able to roll out an update across their entire collection of machines to ensure that they're all consistent and ensure that no users are impacted while they create this rollout. And so that's where we have created a control update mechanism that allows you to reprovision automatically all of the devices or a percentage of them, depending on how you would like to create the update. And so all of these pieces are there for one goal, to enable you to manage shared mode devices like you manage any Cloud PC, while also enabling the consistency and the optimization that many admins need for providing devices in scenarios for task work. Okay, now that we've talked about the overview, let's go through demos of the product so you have a better idea of how shared mode Cloud PCs work. First of all, I'm going to give you a demo of the provisioning policy process, which is how you set up Cloud PCs in shared mode. Second, I'm going to give you an overview of our reporting experiences and how you can monitor that you have the right number of licenses for shared mode and for Frontline all up. Okay, so for shared mode devices, the first step for you to create Cloud PCs in shared mode is to create a provisioning policy, just like any other Cloud PC. And so you do that by going to the Windows 365 Blade in Intune, and then you head over to provisioning policy and you create a new policy. Now in this example, you're going to see that I have a policy that I'm going to call Seattle Stores. And in this example, I'm giving you the example of one of our customers who were testing Frontline shared mode for their retail staff that are looking to access machines to check inventory in the back office. And so you can see here that I can call this provisioning policy Seattle Store Staff. And in this example, first of all, I'm going to set it up as a shared mode, which you can see is an option for me to set up in this provisioning policy right here. And so here you see the dedicated and the shared mode option. And you see that we highlight to you that in shared mode, each license is going to give you one Cloud PC, and then only one Cloud PC can be activated per that license. Everything else from a provisioning policy perspective here looks the same. You have the ability to choose the join type, the network, the geography, and the region. This is all steps that you're very familiar with. And you can also enable a single sign-on. You can choose the gallery image, and we recommend choosing the Microsoft 365 24H2 image, as we've included some login optimizations in that. Now, in this section is where you see that we've added some new configurations here. First of all, Typically, you can choose the language and the Cloud PC naming, but you can see the Windows Autopilot option here that allows you to directly link an Autopilot device preparation policy so that we can install and prepare the Cloud PCs with the apps that you've specified. In this example, I've already created a deployment preparation profile for the Seattle stores, and I've included the two apps that I would like to ensure are installed on these devices anytime they were created. And so I only have to link the policy here by choosing the same policy that I've already created in the Windows Autopilot deployment preparation profile policy. Once I've done that, I can choose some parameters to help in cases of errors. For example, the number of minutes I want to allow before device preparation fail. And I can also choose whether or not I want to prevent the users to be able to log in if a failure occurs. Now, the next thing here is the assignment. And this is where I can choose the group of users that I want to enable for shared mode Cloud PC access. And so in this example here, I've already created a group of my Seattle retail staff. And this is essentially any of the staff that needs to be able to access an inventory check-in machine. Now, this is here the most interesting part of this experience, which is where you go to click and choose the Cloud PC size. And as soon as you get to this screen, you're able to see that you have purchased several licenses here. And for the 2V CPU, for example, you don't have any shared Cloud PCs available because you've already used them up. But for the 2V CPU 8128, there's about 25 shared Cloud PCs available. And from this screen, you're able to choose what name you want the end users to see when they access one of these Cloud PCs in the Windows app, in the number of Cloud PCs you want to create in that collection. And so in this example here, I'm going to choose the 25 Cloud PCs, and then I'm going to call this a retail station. So that's what the end user sees. And then finally, I'm going to choose 20 Cloud PCs to be created in this collection. Lastly, I hit review, I hit create, and now we automatically create 20 shared Cloud PC that will be available to all the users that are in that retail store staff. Only 20 can be logged in to the collection at a time. Okay, so now that I've showed you how to set up Cloud PCs in shared mode, I'm going to show you how you can reprovision and manage the consistency of these devices once you've provisioned them. Now, in this screen, you can see that I've chosen my Seattle store staff provisioning policy that I've already created, and I'm able to go to the view experience, and right in the view experience, I have the option to hit reprovision. Now, when I choose reprovision, I'm given also the option to figure out if I want to reprovision my entire collection at the same time, or I would like to keep a percentage of devices available for my users. In many of the customer scenarios that we've heard about the need for reprovision, sometimes what happens is that there's a new app that they would like to reprovision and all the machines are available. And so it's key to both be able to roll out this update and change the entire collection of devices to be consistent, but also not interrupt the user and their productivity at the same time. And this is enabling you to do both. And so in this example, I'm going to cancel this, and then I'm going to show you another option here, which is one of the other key scenarios that a lot of our customers have talked about, the ability to schedule a specific reprovision. Let's say there is a specific time in the month that you would like to be able to ensure that you update your entire collection so that it's all consistent across. You can also go to this part here and do a schedule reprovision. And you'll see that It gives you the same option of being able to specify a percentage of devices that are available during the reprovision. And it also gives you the ability to say, I want it to happen at this date, at this time, as well as schedule it on a once weekly or monthly schedule. So that's a really cool feature that a lot of our customers are excited about, that enables them to keep these devices consistent without needing to do any manual work, because they can set this schedule and it will take care of it on its own. All right, so now that we've gone through the provisioning experience, some of the management experience for shared mode Cloud PCs, I'm going to walk you quickly through the monitoring experience. In this example, you'll see that I've gone to Cloud PC reports, which are available in Microsoft Intune. And there are many reports that we enable here, but I specifically want to go to the Connected Frontline Cloud PC report. And that's the report where you can monitor how many licenses you have. Do you have the right number of licenses for their users? Are you reaching concurrency or are you not? And we've added support in this report to shared mode along with dedicated mode. And so you'll see here that for each collection that I have, I can actually see it here. So these are the provisioning policies that I have. And I've purchased multiple licenses. I have 2 vCPU, 8 256 gigabyte. I also have 4. And under this, I've created several provisioning policy. If you recall my Seattle store staff, this I've created a pool of 20 machines. And in this collection, it looks like I have 16 users that are on right now. And so it's showing me that I'm approaching concurrency limit here. And that's a good reason for me to look further and see perhaps I need to add more devices to this collection or purchase more licenses in general. And so I'm going to click on this exact report to dive a little bit more deeper into the data. And here I can see that I have 6 connected out of 20 machines that are available. We have also the ability to see that there are 5 users that were prevented from being able to connect. And you can see here that also this trend line allows me to see that I've reached this concurrency and when exactly did that happen, at what date. Now, one ability that you see on this report that we haven't added yet, but will hopefully be coming soon, is the ability to see the number of users and who they are specifically. So at the moment in this report, you'll be able to see that 5 users were prevented from connected, but hopefully soon we'll be adding the ability to see which users were not able to connect due to reaching concurrency. So you may wonder, in this example, what are your options to ensure that your users are not limited by not being able to connect? And in this example that I just gave you, you can go back to the provisioning policy and you can immediately increase the number of Cloud PCs in the collection. So you may be able to say, I would like to actually give them 25 Cloud PCs based on this usage pattern. Another option for you is to modify the idle time limits, which is something that automatic for us by default. There's a limit where if the user is idle over 30 minutes, we are signing them out. And so you can make that shorter if you would like to ensure that more Cloud PCs are available. So that's another option for you there. So with that, I've reached the end of my presentation. Thank you for joining me. I hope you found this content useful, and I'm looking forward to hear your feedback on Windows 365 Frontline.